Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. All right, fellow appreciators of absurdity and pettiness, here's a satisfying medium-length story to get you that much closer to the weekend as you grind away at the hamster wheel that is the American work week. Here we go. New management, as always, knows best. Bit of background. I've worked in the pub trade since '87. I've been a kitchen manager, a pub manager, and tested multiple new POS, point of sale, and T&A, time and attendance systems for different companies. For my mental health, I decided a few years back to take a drop back down to a shift manager. It just wasn't worth the stress for the money, and it ended up causing me a full breakdown. Basically, I kinda know what I'm talking about. A few years back, the place I work at employed a new DM, deputy manager, one step below the PM, pub manager, and my line boss. Realistically, he only got the job because I refused a promotion. He was fresh out of uni with a lovely, shiny new piece of paper showing he knew everything that is possible to know about management, and obviously with his years, a massive 3 years, of experience working behind a bar, he could never be wrong. Our company had SOPs, standard operating procedures, that are basically the rules you need to follow to do every task. I've been there since they were first implemented and actually helped write several of them with regards to the POS and TNA systems, since like every set of rules, there are exceptions in certain rare situations. Our pub, being a virtual 24-hour operation unit, is one of those where rare situations crop up regularly. I was on a run of closed shifts following on from the DM shift, and the PM was on holiday, so DM was in total charge. He decided to make his mark and sort things out. I received a call that he needed me an hour earlier to discuss a few things. When I turned up for the meeting, he has a ream of paperwork in front of him, exception, reports detailing closing down and dealing with the POS and TNA, corrections I'd done to his work during the day, plus printouts of SOPs. He started laying into me about how I was breaking the SOPs every night and how disappointed he was in me for not knowing or following the correct procedures like he did. How I should never correct my superior's work. This was a formal meeting with minutes being taken, and he threatened me with a full disciplinary if I didn't follow the SOPs exactly, emphasizing his point by pressing his finger dramatically on the printed out SOPs in front of him. I asked him in my nicest possible voice to clarify that he wanted me to follow those SOPs he was pointing at every night, which he answered rather condescendingly in the affirmative. Dutifully, I took his printed out copies and swore I'd follow them to the letter. Every night for my close downs, I used the printed out copies he'd given me. Can any of you see where this is going? The next night was end of week, so all the TNAs needed to be closed and the end of week procedures for the POS completed. I was on days off and the DM was closing, so he'd have to do it all. About 1 a.m., I got a call from him because none of the end-of-week processes would work, and they had to be done before he left. He'd tried everything, and had even tried to call the PM to help him. The PM's response was, "Call A-Light Vlogging. He knows the system inside and out. He'll tell you what you need to do." I took great pleasure in telling him the SOPs he'd given me were for a regular pub, and we had a specific set of SOPs for 24-hour pubs detailing slight differences we needed to do, otherwise the end-of-week processes would fail. Altering start times of some staff by 1 minute so they fell on the correct start day, and altering the POS system start time by 1 minute so it fell on the right day as well. This was something I did every night on close and was why I had all the exception reports he was complaining about. Fixing it so that end of week worked was simple, but incredibly repetitive and would take an hour or so. My parting comment was, just follow the specific SOPs, it's all explained in there, and if you have an issue, call me back. I know those SOPs well because I wrote them. Next shift, I found out that he'd left work over 3 hours late that night, and the PM had given him a rather stern talking to about learning to walk before he ran and who to go to if he thought something was wrong. In the end, he became a decent DM, but I was sad to see him go when he got his own pub. He called me the other day to help him with an issue he was having with the TNA system, which is what brought this memory back. That was a story turn I wasn't expecting, to be honest. Glad DM learned from his mistakes and grew into a competent manager. Guess he learned the hard way that if the grumpy, experienced Giza asks you to explicitly clarify you want something done exactly as you asked, you should pause and ask why that might not be such a wonderful thing. And our second story. Karen gets rudely and loudly shut down. Once again, I have an adventure to tell you all about a trip to a store. There's me, duh. My son, I shall call son. Entitled Karen, we'll call her Karen, store employee and manager. Today, a few hours ago, my son took me to Walmart to do some shopping. Shopping itself was uneventful for the most part until the Karen of the story came into the picture. My son was doing his job and helping his mother, me, shop by getting things down off a shelf and placing them in a cart, being as I'm permanently wheelchair bound. I was reading off a list of shopping, he was getting the items, we stopped a moment in the frozen food section, he retrieved an item or two on my list and put them in the cart. At that moment, we stopped shopping for a moment while I took out an inhaler. I have troubles breathing at times. That's when we heard a loud snapping of fingers and a rude ahem. Then the dreaded loud voice. Now that you're done helping her, you can help me with my shopping. My son turned. I don't work here, lady. I was and am shopping with my mother. You want help? Go find an actual employee. You work here, she screeched. Otherwise, you wouldn't be helping her shop. Again, lady, my son said, I do not work here. Want help? Go find an employee and stop bothering us. She started yelling, I'm getting you fired. Manager, manager. At her yelling, an employee came to see what the yelling was about and asked if she could help. Yes. She deliberately dragged out the S on the word. Your employee has been extremely rude and threatened me when I asked for help. The employee looked confused. Ma'am, he doesn't work here. Yes, he does. You're just trying to cover for him. Now get me your manager, now. She walked over to a post and pressed a red button on a display on it. Manager needed in frozen food, she said into the speaker, also on the post. Be right there, said a voice back. Now we'll see how long you're employed here, the Karen said as she stood there with a smug look on her face. Before long, the manager arrived. Before we could even ask what was going on, the Karen launched into a heavily embellished tale, painting herself as a victim and demanding compensation for the horrible insult she'd endured and demanding both my son and the employee be fired immediately. I remember you, the manager suddenly said. You're banned from small fart, if I remember correctly, but got interrupted by her screeching. The response of the manager was a wonder to behold and caught us all by surprise. Shut up, he yelled at Karen. This is the second time, and the reason you were banned for 6 months to begin with, harassing other customers and making up wild tales and trying to get one of my employees fired. She opened her mouth, but the manager beat her to it. I said shut up. Now leave your cart where it is, get the hell out of my store, and don't ever set foot in it again, or I'll have you jailed. She stood there, mouth flapping. I said, get the hell out now, in a quieter tone, or shall I call the police and have you escorted out the front door in cuffs? The Karen took off running as if the devil himself had come in pursuit of her. It was an unbelievable but very satisfying thing to have witnessed. The manager turned to us. I'm so sorry you had to endure that and hear me yelling, but she had that coming, and this is not the first time she's harassed other shoppers. Please allow me to do something for you for your troubles. When we left, we not only had our shopping comped 25% at his insistence, although we told him it wasn't necessary, we were each given a $50 gift card to use as we see fit on our next visit to the store. And I have a new hero to enjoy talking to whenever I go shopping there again. It's unfortunate that you had to endure such behavior, but the way the situation was handled speaks volumes about the integrity of the store's management. And our last story. HOA wants to tow my perfectly working car. For limited context, I've never lived in a home that was governed by an HOA. This is the first. And honestly, when my partner and I bought the house, we were literally moving for the military and had to buy something in 10 days or less since housing was a 2-year wait list on the base, so we just signed the papers and honestly didn't read through every small detail. Our fault, I get it. I'm just baffled. We bought a lovely home, well kept by the previous owner, also military. No complaints on move-in. Maybe the lawn was a bit brown, but I was told that it's not uncommon for this area in the summer because of how dry it gets. However, since we moved, we've been here about 2 years, then the letters from our HOA started. For 2 years, nothing. Then all of a sudden, we were in violation of things against our CC&R that didn't make sense to me because it's been 2 years of the same home habits and we heard nothing. Example, with COVID-19 emerging back in March here, I knew things were going to shut down, so I started making appointments necessary to renew my car registration because I knew the tags would expire in the summer. Those appointments were made for May, first available. Then everything shut down and my appointment was moved to October after my tags would expire in July. So I dealt with it and our state got a special waiver for drivers with current tags about to expire that we could keep in our glove box until our appointment time. My HOA sent us a letter stating that they were going to tow my car from my closed garage where it's stored between driving because it's considered an inoperable vehicle for having an expired tag and against our CC&R section yada yada part whatnot. I've tried to contact the HOA to provide them proof of my waiver from the state in writing, email, and a mailed copy with a letter of apology, trying to be compliant here and respectful because I've never had to deal with one. No response. So I just keep doing what I'm doing. Work 6 days a week while my partner's deployed and park my car in my garage. There's the letter for the lawn, which once again I've cared for diligently and looks better than when we moved in, but they don't care for my lawn ornaments. It's 1 star, maybe like 8 inches in diameter if that says USA in my garden that I've had for 2 years, but now it's not approved, I guess? Neither are my hammock chairs on my porch. Very nice looking, well kept. We sit in them often after a hard day's work to enjoy. There's maybe 1 or 2 more violations, but I can't seem to wrap my brain around them. I thought I was doing everything right. We don't want our house to look awful. We care for it. It's our first home together. We both work 6 days a week sometimes, and we still manage to cut out time to deal with outside home issues to keep everything healthy and looking nice. I'm just lost. I didn't realize when you buy a home, you're still sometimes living at the whim of a landlord. But I also don't understand why some of these issues are suddenly issues when they haven't been for 2 years. I don't get it, y'all. I'm just trying to adult the best I can. I just feel at a loss, like neighborhood bullying here. Who's in my neighborhood watching my tag so closely when I drive by? Who's watching to see how often I water my grass every week when 4 times isn't enough? Who's hating on my 1 singular lawn ornament that's just a star that says USA? I'm feeling so unsafe at the eyes on my every move that I won't even wave to my neighbors anymore. Edit. So I've hired an attorney to send letters of objection to every BS violation. I also find out when the next board meeting is and run for HOA membership. Yes, I have a life and I don't have time for this, but voting for busybodies is the only way to temporarily moderate the HOA. Sounds like you have one neighbor who's an absolute jerk. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.